Welcome to the part of the podcast where we talk about movies. Usually we talk about a singular film, but this time we're going to be talking about, I think, maybe more of a smattering. We're going to be talking
I have
about
about
John
four.
Waters.
And when we got the PG rating, even the distributor flipped out. They said, "Put in the word shit, something, because it'll kill your career." But actually, I thought, wait a minute, maybe this is the way we can surprise everybody that I actually accidentally made a family movie.
Yeah.
I have two. So I rewatched Pink Flamingos for this, and I watched Female Trouble. Chandler, what have you watched?
For this, I've watched Pink Flamingos and Female Trouble. Recently, I've also seen Multiple Maniacs in Polyester as well.
And I believe you've talked about those on the podcast.
Yeah, I've talked about them, so I won't go too into them.
Yeah. Do you want to give a little introduction to John Waters as a director?
Yeah, John Waters is a Baltimore a Baltimore director. It's a Baltimore director famous for making like low budget shock stuff. Pink Flamingos being his most notable example of just the kind of like ultra low budget. It looks low effort, but I think that's part of its charm. He's got a band of misfits. He makes punk rock cinema, is what I'd call it, because I feel the energy, the attitude, the style of the punk rock music, which is just a bunch of kids who don't know anything about music playing songs made up of 3 chords. No melodies, just shouting. It's kind of the same energy of John Waters movies.
Yeah, there's definitely a just kind of a mood and a vibe from the direction that he's just doing what he wants. Isn't interested whatsoever in like adhering to convention, whether that be societal convention or artistic convention, and almost like goes the opposite way just for the fun of it. At times, and that's I think it comes across also in like his direction. I really noticed this time around watching some of his movies the way that everyone seems to talk in a very interesting way in John Waters films, and it's not the way I normally hear people talk. I won't say the way normal people talk, because no one's normal, but particularly no one is normal in a John Waters film.
It's really weird because I feel like everybody in a John Waters movie is shouting, but they're not. But they're talking like normal, just very loudly.
Yeah, and there's a weird like
chewing on every word.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly, but there's like a weird inflection thing that happens at the end of almost every sentence, where I don't know how to describe it other than like it's just like there's like a rhythm to it, and almost all the performances have like the same kind of vibe to them that is almost anti-polished acting, but also good acting. I think for the most part,
it's expressive acting.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
They understand the emotions. They don't necessarily understand the words. So,
do you want your spaghetti with or without cheese?
I'll have 2 chicken breasts, please.
Well, we're not having that. We're having spaghetti.
I couldn't possibly eat spaghetti. Do I look Italian?
And I think that's an important distinction, because John Waters, it's important to understand this going in, because if you knew nothing about John Waters, these movies are some of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen.
Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit. Filth are my politics. Filth is my life. Take whatever you like.
I hoped sort of to make exploitation films for art theaters, which is what I ended up doing.
It would be a bizarre, inexplicable experience, and you probably wouldn't enjoy any of it.
Yeah, but understanding him a little bit, I really enjoyed all the movies I've seen so far, because I do think John Waters has talents that sort of peek through the trash of his movies. He's a very good writer. I think he's got some amazing rants in all of his movies. I feel like there's at least 1 or 2 scenes in every one of his movies where a character just reads a whole fucking page of dialogue ranting about one thing, usually from Divine. But it's a common saying in film that you have to understand the rules in order to break them properly, and I think that's what makes John Waters special. Is that if you look at his background, he's talked about his influences before. He likes shit like Bergman and Buñuel and Hitchcock. He understands what good cinema is. He just chooses not to do it, which I think is really great. I love all the movies I've seen so
I
far.
don't know. I almost get the vibe from John Waters in that, like, it's not a choice not to do it. It was never an option. From like just watching his filmmaking, you never get the sense of like, oh, he could have done this better. Oh, I can see he was trying to create tension here, but didn't. There's none of that. There's no like hint at some kind of like quality cinema. It's entirely in and of itself, just doing something else. And so it's not the option, the very
Yeah.
idea of doing cinema as we know it is it's just not even there, which I think helps because it creates like a very unique but consistent style that I think
Yeah.
ultimately consistency is the point in cinema, not the exactly like adhering to the rules, whatever those may be.
Yeah. It's cinema of rebellion.
Mhm.
Rebelling at our notions of what we think cinema is. I think so yeah, going through his movies, like I think obviously his biggest one is Pink Flamingos,
Right.
which you had rewatched. I'd seen it for the first time. This is one that I thought I'd work up towards. So the order of which I've seen it was Multiple Maniacs, then jumping all the way to Polyester, then to Pink Flamingos, then to Female Trouble. But that like Multiple Maniacs, Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, that's like an unofficial trilogy of like the early era John Waters Divine stuff. And I think there's a great progression of those three movies, where the first one just feels like whatever we can do, let's film it, let's make something out of it. The second one is, oh, we have your attention now, we're going to really do something disgusting with it. And the third one, you can start to feel the bigger budget sort of creep in a way that doesn't compromise his style, I think. Female Trouble almost feels like a fucked up version of Goodfellas, but instead of there being a rise and fall,
Yeah, in a way.
there's just a fucked up person who gets worse and worse as time goes on.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm going to kill you! Let me see my face for it.
And I think a huge part of like watching these movies, the biggest revelation is how much I love Divine.
Divine is most certainly the most engaging and interesting part about all of these films. And, you know, it's clearly we're on this, you as an audience member is on the same page as John Waters as the director, because he just puts Divine's in every scene practically.
Yeah.
The films are just itching to get back to that performance. And it is so much fun.
Questions and answers!
Do you believe in God?
I am God!
Since those are the two I watched,
Yeah.
we'll probably focus on those, and I'll let you
Yeah,
get to the other two when we're done with them. So, Pink Flamingos is, I feel like it's his most infamous film,
Yes.
and it's about a trashy family living in a trailer. There's Divine's mother who likes eggs, and Divine's son who.
Oh.
How does one describe? And then
They're
there's
very
like a
affectionate
rival
family.
Then there's a rival trashy family or couple.
I don't know. That's
He always
Nate
has like
Stoll
great.
and the guy.
He always has great alliteration with his names, and so it's Divine and the D Davenport. No, Don Davenport. That's Female Trouble. Whatever. So there's the rival couple, and they want to be. They think they're the trashiest, worst people alive, and they think Divine is stealing their thunder in that regard. So they plan to
The Marbles is their name.
the Marbles. Yes, they plan to outdo Divine and sabotage.
There's barely a
Shenanigans,
plot here.
shenanigans and pranks ensue.
Shenanigans is light. That is underselling it.
It is an absurd film, and it is one that is. I enjoyed the shenanigans, the terrible, disgusting, like the plot of like trying to outdo each other in being disgusting and terrible I think lends itself to John Waters' style really well, because there's this constant like escalation of, oh, what are they going to do next? How is someone going to retaliate? So there was a momentum to Pink Flamingos that, spoiler alert, didn't have in Female Trouble.
Damn.
But I'm not saying anything about the overall quality of that film, but just saying that there's, Pink Flamingos, liked it my first time, and I really enjoyed it my second time, just as being more familiar with John Waters. Although it's hard to say you really enjoyed a John Waters film.
This is the thing, is that if you judge a horror film's quality on how bad it scares you, can you judge a gross up film's quality on how fucking disgusted you feel? Because there are literally some scenes where I couldn't watch all the way through. I let them play, I just turned away. The insemination scene
is kind of there's a fellatio scene.
There is
also
a
terrible
fellatio scene. And that's the chicken scene. The chicken scene really raises some questions, because obviously that is they killed that chicken. It was a real chicken who died during the scene. But John Waters was quick to say in the commentary that the chicken was eaten. They ate the chicken shortly after finishing the scene, and when you really compare that chicken's life to the lives of the millions of other chickens that get killed and packaged every day, at least his legacy will forever be lived on through this film.
Although the chicken we ate the chicken. I've always said that. I probably wouldn't film chicken murder today, but we did eat the chicken, and I got it in a place that said freshly killed chicken, and we put it in the movie, and it got too. So its life was better, if you ask me.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
I appreciate the sentiment, John Waters. Not sure.
Yes.
Well, I suppose from a certain point of view, he has a point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just this is like Pink Flamingos is the most like bare bones plot wise, structure wise. Because you just described the movie's about, but the movie doesn't really go out of its way to make that the focus. Shit just kind of
it's a series of scenes that are vaguely related to that.
Yes, but most of them are very entertaining scenes.
Oh yeah.
I love the scene where they get Divine opens the pile of shit in the mail.
I love how they react to the pile of shit and like how disgusted they are. Like why would you send this to me? And how offended they are, despite the fact that they've done worse things. Like they should be desensitized to a shit in the mail. And quite frankly, a nicely packaged shit.
It is, yes. I love that line. Somebody sent me a bowel movement.
One of my favorite scene in Pink Flamingos is when Divine and Divine's son goes to the Marbles house and they lick everything. And you're like, what's the point of this? This isn't that disgusting. And then when the Marbles get home, the furniture rejects them because it's been licked, and it's so absurd. It's so great. So unexpected.
It's great low budget filmmaking. I mean, those effects are very simple.
Yeah.
It's just strings or whatever, but it's very fun.
With any John Waters film, I feel like Pink Flamingos is the one I recommend the most. I've seen. I haven't seen that many, but it's hard to like say you recommend something.
Yeah,
it's more like if you feel any kind of like vibe towards what the description is, the disgusting nature of it, like if you feel a pull towards it, watch it. If you don't, better left unwatched.
The benefit of starting with Pink Flamingos is that I don't think, from what I've seen so far, it gets worse than that as far as like things that you're able to stomach.
Female Trouble is pretty disgusting.
It is, but not in the same, I guess, visceral way, I feel. Because again, that ending,
for the most part,
infamous ending, I was lucky that I knew going into that, because if I had no idea that's how it would have ended, I might have had a much more violent reaction, because They don't cut around it. You see the ending, spoiler alert for a film like Pink Flamingos, the ending of the movie is Divine proving she's the grossest by eating dog shit. And, you know, no movie magic here, no cutting around it. You see the dog shit, and an uncut take, you see Divine take the shit and eat it. And I feel like this movie, just one quick thing, I feel like this movie is going to inevitably come on Criterion. And I feel like the only cover you can make is Divine smiling with the dog shit in her mouth.
I feel like there's other covers to make that doesn't involve dog shit. But it's so hard to watch. I'm hesitant to say I'm glad someone has filmed this, but it's one of those like unique little tidbits of cinema. Like, this is on film for all time, on an actual film. Real life, it happened. There's no effects. There's no getting around it. The dog shits. Divine eats.
That's the movie.
What a scene.
Yeah, it's one of those. I'm a little used to it because I grew up watching Jackass, and they do a lot of similar stuff in Jackass. And what's beautiful about Jackass is Jackass has a lot of that kind of stuff. There's one where they drink horse semen. But it feels completely indebted to John Waters, which is extra beautiful because John Waters appears in the Jackass movies.
Oh, that's great.
Facilitating some stunts and stuff like that. Yeah, he's really one of a kind. And I feel this is his most... I don't think it's his best movie, but I feel this is encapsulates his style the best.
Could you give us some of your political beliefs?
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
So the next one is Female Trouble. Do you want to do a quick summary of that?
I thought I had the Blu-ray.
So Divine plays Don Davenport.
Yes. Don Davenport, who's a shitty high school teenager. She then becomes impregnated by Divine himself.
But what a scene. It's important to know too that that's what's happening, because it makes the scene both more tolerable and more absurd.
Let's go fuck yourself, you know.
But from a technical point of view, actually, that's a really challenging thing to do, isn't it? Especially with the budgets and everything
Well,
else.
the first we did it, we shot it very first before the movie with Divine, before he shaved and everything. So he had a beard and male hair. And then Sally Turner, who's also in the beauty parlor scene, that says, like, go throw a goddamn penny and I'm wishing well, that's her. And we filmed it from one angle with Divine as the man, and you couldn't really see her face. And then they went home, Divine shaved it, the whole thing, got in full drag, everything, and then came back and we shot it from the other angle with the double in the other costume.
It's so funny.
Divine. Fucking Divine. Oh.
Yeah, it's just a movie about Don Davenport's I don't even call it descent, because the descent would imply that you started from someplace high.
Well, Dawn starts with a loving family that just didn't get her cha-cha slides, and that it's all downhill from there.
It's a crime. This movie feels like a parody of like those kind of melodramas. It feels like a parody of like a meth not even once commercial. It's
Yeah, a parody of like what you think of, like, oh, the kids are being
this
corrupted.
is what your kid could end up
they're
like.
gonna be criminal. Yeah, like that. They're like, oh, really? Look at this. And it like playing that scenario out almost.
But it's his most absurd but grounded.
I've done everything a mother can do. I've locked her in her room. I beat her with a car aerial. Nothing changes her. There's
a noticeable structure there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big air quotes character study. I like it a lot. It's got some really funny little absurd moments. I think the hardest I laughed is when her daughter just becomes Hindu.
A Hare Krishna person, yeah.
It was a turn I was not expecting.
Yeah. I don't know. This one felt more like absurd to me. And I almost like, I didn't like the more, like it felt more structured and less engaging for some reason than
Yeah.
Pink Flamingos. Although I found it like in theory, just because like I don't know, I'm not John Waters' style to begin with is not my sort of thing. I find it interesting just as like a piece of cinema. But like in theory, it's interesting, and I do really appreciate like the almost like parody and like satire elements of it that are just kind of vaguely pointed at just vague things. It didn't capture me as much as Pink Flamingos, and I liked it, but I don't know, not my thing.
Yeah, it's roughly the same style, but there's an increase in the budget, so it looks a little bit better. I think this is Divine. I think as far as like performances go, this is Divine's best performance, where she's just fucking unhinged in this.
Certainly
movie.
most varied performance of having to do a lot throughout the film.
Okay, look rough.
Look happy. I love those flashbulbs.
Look horrified at what you've done to your daughter.
Gets to do a hell of a lot more. Yeah, I'm struggling to even really talk about this one because I saw it like a week and a half ago and I don't remember too much from it. I definitely want to watch it again. I loved the final scene. I think it's a great ending.
The final scene sort of like when Divine's in jail and then spoiler alert goes to the electric chair. That's wow.
The freeze frame the movie ends on, I think, is just perfect. It's a lot of absurd stuff, some really gross stuff too, but again, nothing that I feel is on the same level as Pink Flamingos. I did find again, like we said, the impregnation scene I thought was fucking hilarious.
Absurd. Yeah. Absurd is really the only way of discussing the film. Like every single scene, and you sent one of the quotes to our Snapchat group chat, and I thought it was very funny. Is Divine's like, I've done everything a mother can. I've locked her in her room. I've beaten her. What more could I do for my daughter?
Just get your hair done tomorrow and you'll feel better. That's what I always do when I get depressed.
Maybe I will.
It's great.
Yeah, it's got a lot of funny moments. I don't feel it's as impactful as Pink Flamingos, but I do think as like a sort of parody it works. Yeah, I'd like to watch it again. Just FYI, just general statement. The John Waters commentaries are wonderful. It's like the perfect blend of like filmmaking tips as much as you can get from him, anecdotes, post-release stuff like that. He's a delightful man.
So they watched it and they called me and I said, okay, what do I had a contract that said I had to have an R rating. And I said, okay, what do I have to cut? And they said, we stopped taking notes.
I don't know. It's definitely the best Divine movie. Yeah, I like it. It's good. It's got a nice Criterion. Wonderful cover.
Operation Excitement is up to a flying start.
Just one more shot, Dawn. You are beautiful.
Any other passing John Waters thoughts before we move on?
I will say that the one I think you should watch is Polyester, because I feel like that is John Waters. It's a John Waters story, but it's told in a studio way. So he has to hold back on a lot of the gross out stuff, but that absurdism is still there, and it's still really funny. Hairspray is one of my favorite musicals. I highly recommend it. That's it. John Waters is great. Wonderful man. Wonderful man.
I'll put Polyester on my list and start there after this.
Scratch and sniff movie. Make sure you have the scratch and sniff card. Don't buy it used.
I don't watch movies over and over, and I know that's a terrible thing to say at Criterion because they want you to do that. But this one I do, over and over, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. This time, they've really gone beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And